Hey there, wrestling fans. It is I, CM Jew, the most glorious Jew that ever lived, your wrestling rabbi and undisputed Jewish wrestling champion. So just sit back and bask in my glory, bro. Because I'm, of course, here with the lovely Elvira. And on this episode, we head back to the deserts of Phoenix as we look at the night that an architect curb-stomped his way to a boyhood dream of a universal title shot at WrestleMania. And the man established her place in the WWE main event of WrestleMania. So let's get ready to rumble! Because this is the review of Royal Rumble 2019 on this episode of CM Jew's Wrestling Reviews.
I have proved to everybody in the world that I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary. Nobody can touch me.
Hey there, wrestling fans, and welcome back to episode 102 of CMG's Wrestling Reviews. And as you all know, this episode is the Royal Rumble. And my God, what a Royal Rumble it was. 5 long hours worth. Yeah, I won't blame you if some of y'all fell asleep during watching it. I don't think that's a testament to it being boring, but rather just, again, WWE running these long-ass marathon shows does not do them any favors. But we have a lot of matches, a lot of good matches to talk about. But I'm going to talk about 2 matches real quick right here, and that being 2 of the pre-show matches. We're going to talk about the Cruiserweight match proper, even though that was on the pre-show. But the other 2, which was the first match, which was Gable and Rude versus a member of AOP, and I believe Scott Dawson. And it was this idea that, if they won, the Revival would get a future shot down the line once AOP... once the other AOP member, I believe it was Razor, came back from injury, and they would get a future shot. So it's those 2 trying to pair together to face and take the title off Rude and Gable, to which they didn't. It was an okay match, but it was out of left field, and nobody was expecting it. Though it does bring our first shot of the stadium proper. And I can tell you this, I love the setup for the Royal Rumble. It's just an awesome look with them coming out of the dugout and those screens. I do wish the screens were a bit bigger, but then again, they weren't trying to block the view of people sitting directly behind the entrance. It's still a very cool sight and made for very cool entrances, especially using the sort of altered reality technology, which I think really the first time they really used it was last WrestleMania, for, having people with, certain individuals had special items that were put in that space through altered reality. That's just always cool looking. And it's going to be interesting to see how WWE uses that technology going forward. The other match was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev for the United States title, and Shinsuke Nakamura wins the title back. I actually like the ending. I'm glad that, they gave Nakamura a win here. You can put the title back on him. It was another great match as far as I'm concerned between these 2. And they always have great matches. Very hard-hitting. They have very good chemistry and pace. And I honestly would like to see more of them together. Unfortunately, we know that didn't happen. Thank you, R-Truth. You have to ruin everything, don't you? But besides R-Truth ruining everything, I still thought it was a good match, if a little bit short. But I love their chemistry together, and that's what makes the matches so much fun to watch. So those are the two pre-show matches. Let's get into the last pre-show match before we get into the Royal Rumble proper. Let's get into the first match of the evening. Pre-show match for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Akira Tozawa versus Buddy Murphy. And the first match we're going to start off with, it's not the first match proper of the main card, but the last of the pre-show, and what may be, based on rumors, Hideo Itami's last match in the WWE, or should I say second to last, because I believe he had a match this past week from 205 Live. But the Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight Championship, I love this match. Once again, the Cruiserweights just kill it, as they always do. And part of the reason that people are frustrated with them always being on pre-show is because of matches like this. But the other way to look at it, and I think I saw Tony Nese do this recently, is, again, trust issue. WWE puts trust in us to, with more eyes being on the product, because, again, the pre-show's on YouTube and everything. So certainly that is a different way of looking at it. And I can see both sides of the argument. But as far as the match proper, all four men had great chemistry. So many great maneuvers. Just a fast-paced match. Just was going at just a great pace. One of my favorite moments is there's a dive to where I believe somebody was on somebody's shoulders. And then there was a counter out of a move. And then I believe it was Akira Tozawa dived and hit Kalisto off Hideo Itami's shoulders. That was a great maneuver. And just, again, more importantly is that this wasn't a spot fest. Like, there could be Cruiserweight Fatal 4-Ways to where it's like, okay, it's this person's time to do these big maneuvers or series of big maneuvers. And now it's this person's. Here, everything felt like there had a place to where that move was happening and a logical reasoning why that move happened. There was an actual story involved in the match of the different styles of the different wrestlers mending together as to why this wrestler can counter this wrestler and then hit this wrestler with this move, and so on and so on. And so they were able to keep up this very frantic pace, and yet no one seemed exhausted or like they were slowing down or everything. And it all just built towards the climax of the match to where Buddy Murphy just started hitting those V-trigger knees that he does so well. And then finally hitting Hideo Itami with Murphy's Law for the win. So a very, very good match. A great way to really kick off the Royal Rumble proper, even though it wasn't on the main card. And a great way to get the crowd fired up and hyped for the first official match of the card. The Cruiserweights once again did their job while also selling just how great 205 Live is. And again, they deserve more, but they're put in a spot to where, again, they get to shine. And as long as they're allowed to shine, wherever it may be, I just want to continue watching the men of 205 Live tear it up in these Cruiserweight Championship matches. So, absolutely outstanding match. But let's move on to the first match proper of the main card. Let's move to the next match. First match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. The Man, Becky Lynch versus the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. Going into this match, it's hard to believe that, when I did my review for NXT TakeOver Phoenix, I talked about Gargano and Ricochet being a match that could be in that upper echelon of, things like Steamboat versus Flair, or Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Eddie Guerrero from '97. Great matches like that. As I was watching that, I didn't even have a thought in my mind that not only could we see another match the next night that matches that quality, though not as good, I would say, as Gargano or Ricochet, but still pretty damn good. But again, and I should have known better, but the women would be the one doing it. And it starts with the first match of the night, Becky Lynch versus Asuka. Yeah, I'm saying it. This was an absolutely fantastic match. I haven't seen a heavyweight title match at the Royal Rumble this good since Cena versus Styles a couple years ago. And really, to me, it's in very rare quality. I think there have been very few great heavyweight championship matches at the Royal Rumble. I can count it on one hand. Benoit versus Angle, Cena versus Edge, Cena versus Styles. I mean, maybe Cena versus Edge wouldn't fit, but I really enjoyed that match. Cena versus Umaga. No surprise I'm praising Cena here, but like those are really great matches, and in particular, like Benoit versus Angle comes to mind with this match because this was just a great mending of Asuka's striking and submission style and that technical aspect against the sort of Irish brawling style of Becky Lynch, which takes elements of like Fit Finlay and other great Irish wrestlers, and sort of the use of environment and just using what you're given to cause damage, which is really Becky's style. And both their styles mended perfectly here. To go over this match move by move would be hard because really there was a great pace and a great balance to one wrestler getting having the upper hand and then losing it, and momentum swings just were aplenty throughout the match. And sometimes that can take down a match, but it didn't here because they all felt deserved and they all felt warranted. And it just made it feel like these were two wrestlers at the top of their game, trading move for moves and hanging with each other. You can think of maneuvers like, I believe there was a Bexploder off the apron to the floor. That was vicious. But more importantly, what really I loved the most was just the trading of submissions. Even the stealing of submissions, to where Asuka did Becky's disarmer, and then Becky, of course, then locked in Asuka's Asuka lock on Asuka, and the back and forth that they had here. And that's, I think, what really reminded me the most of like Benoit versus Angle from 2002, because they had that sort of same technical wrestling style where they were trading submissions, even trading each other's submission, stealing it to lock on the other person. And that made it such a great match. And here it was a great match too. The pace was wonderful. They were on point. And just, again, wonderful technical wrestling abound. And the trading of submissions just gave it this real fight feeling that just made the match transcend to that much more. And I love the ending. I thought the ending was perfect, because I think Becky is so hot right now that she can handle losing a one-on-one match with somebody who's obviously more of a babyface, like Asuka is right now, and submit clean. And especially with what they did with her later, she couldn't do what she did later unless, she lost clean in some fashion. Whether it be through a pinfall, whether it be through submission. And being through submission just makes Asuka look that much stronger. And that was the main goal of this match, which was to make Asuka look strong. Because Becky can handle the loss because she is on such fire right now that nothing can stop her. And so to make Asuka look strong and make her look like she deserves that title and not just was given to her, I should say, because Ronda got involved. I don't know if I can say any more. Just an absolutely fantastic match. Definitely going to be in one of the runnings for match of the night, if not match of the night. Absolutely outstanding. it fills my heart to see such a great technical submission match, even though it wasn't a submission match, but a match filled with so many great submission maneuvers and holds be used once again in WWE. So absolutely fantastic match. But with that, let's move on to the second match of the main card, the Tag Team Championships. Second match for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The Miz and Shane McMahon versus The Bar. So this match I felt really was better than it had any right to be. I know a lot of people, including myself, had a lot of questions going into this match. And honestly, they delivered way better than I thought they could. Miz and Shane actually meld well together. His Daredevil, do anything style with sort of the opportunist aspect of Miz actually melded really well together and worked well throughout telling the story of the match. The Bar, of course, the Bar, because they just don't set the bar, they are the Bar. And Cesaro and Sheamus just have great chemistry. It works so well as these overconfident, egotistical heels think that they're good. And again, telling that story of their egotism getting the better of them, thus not taking them seriously, ultimately leading to their downfall. Considering how short it is, filled with great moments. The counter of the leap of faith, elbow drop to the table that took out Shane for a while, leading to Miz being in trouble and having to fight off two men. The coast to coast by Shane, and then that whole ending sequence as well was just really, really perfectly timed and really made that match finish work so well, where Cesaro had Shane up for, Sheamus' bro kick, and then at the last possible second, Miz with perfect timing pushes Cesaro into the bro kick, knocking him down. Miz then takes out Sheamus, rolls him out of the ring, and then that amazing, have I seen better shooting star presses? Absolutely. But the fact that Shane is like in his 50s and he's doing a shooting star press is just amazing upon itself. And it was a shocking way for the match to end with, to see him do that shooting star press and then get the win. So, like I said, the match I thought was way better than any right to be, but still a fun, entertaining match that did its job of keeping the crowd hyped and keeping the energy of the crowd going. Because, again, you just had that absolutely amazing match with Asuka and Becky, and you needed a match to bridge that match to the next match, the next Women's Championship match, and keep the energy going. And this was the perfect place to put the tag match, and it did it so well. We're going to talk about unfortunate timing for matches a little bit later on, but still, this match was just very enjoyable, very fun, and yeah, probably my biggest surprise of the night as far as how good it was compared to what I think everybody thought it could be. So, very good match. But let's move on to the next Women's Championship match for the Raw Women's Championship. Let's move on to the third match. Third match for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. The Boss, Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey. Once again, the girls knock it out of the park. And it's so awesome to see. And really, as I continue to watch these Ronda Rousey pay-per-view matches, you can see obviously that WWE has learned from their mistakes that they did with Brock Lesnar in making her look strong, but not making her look so strong, at least in every match, that she doesn't seem unbeatable. Which is going to really help when she gets beat at WrestleMania, which we all know is coming. But again, that's the story, and hopefully they won't get cold feet and go through with the full story. But again, Ronda looks strong here, but at the same time, that's Becky. I'm so excited for WrestleMania, I can't wait. But Sasha looked like $1,000,000 here. She looked like this crafty champion that knows what it takes to win a championship and did everything she could to counter everything that Ronda Rousey threw at her, really presenting a challenge that Ronda hadn't faced before. Even with facing Charlotte, who was probably the closest she came to a challenge like this before this, but Sasha was just a wrestler at the top of her game, and they did a really great job of making Ronda look like her title reign was in jeopardy. And honestly, if they had Sasha won it, that would have been amazing too. I could see the match going both ways and working. I also like that they had Ronda win with the Piper's Pit, as they're calling it now, that sort of spinning Samoan drop type of maneuver / judo throw. And I like it because, again, it makes her seem more dangerous. It adds to her repertoire. I mean, even though she's been doing it, she hasn't pinned anybody with it. But the fact that she can pin somebody with it makes it, makes her look that much more dangerous. Because now it's not just the arm bar you have to worry about. You have to worry about this powerful slamming maneuver that can, put you out for the 3 count for her to pin. So it makes her look like she's also learning and growing as a wrestler. So you can see actual growth with her as a wrestler. And the fact that they were able to integrate that into the story of this match, which was Ronda facing a challenge like she's never faced before, or at least yet, in WWE against someone who is absolutely a champion in Sasha Banks. And the thing that's great about it is that, again, great wrestling matches, everybody comes out looking strong, no matter who loses. And both Sasha and Ronda came out looking incredibly strong and looking amazing and like $1,000,000 after this match. The match was fun, it had great pace. And again, the story, as I always do, I go back to the story, but the story of Sasha's veteran ability and veteran knowledge coming into play to, as the match continued, get the handle on Ronda Rousey and be able to, counter whatever she threw at her. But ultimately, the champion's skill would ultimately come over and, help her win the day. As far as being a bit more congruent in sort of submission wrestling and in sort of counter wrestling. No, being a good submission wrestler is not just knowing how to apply the submission. It's also knowing how to counter submissions and how to counter wrestling maneuvers. And again, this is another way they showed Ronda's growth and made her look like a good wrestler, which was that they showed her learning how to counter wrestling maneuvers and counter submissions more prolifically. That word just snuck up on me. To have the proficiency to be able to make those counters and do them well. And that last counter, sort of the roll through out of a submission into the Piper's Pit, was a great counter to lead to the win. So again, absolutely amazing match. Both women's matches were good. Like I said, I like Becky and Asuka a bit more because of its more technical aspect and more submission chain wrestling. But this was an absolutely fantastic match too. The aftermatch sort of fireworks with Sasha throwing up the 4 horsewomen. Just, again, how that's going to lead towards WrestleMania and sort of the hate that Ronda gets to where they can now sort of push Ronda into that tweener role as not being a bad guy, not being a good guy, but there are going to be people who are going to hate her because they're all in love with Becky Lynch. Yeah, they did a great job here getting Ronda to that spot, and they told a great story in the match. It was fun, it had great pacing. It's everything you want in a championship wrestling match. And by the way, we were speaking about Becky. Well, let's talk about why Becky is facing Ronda Rousey, because it's time to move on to the next match. It is time to talk the first Royal Rumble match of the evening, the Women's Royal Rumble. Fourth match, the 2019 Women's Royal Rumble. So we have our first Royal Rumble match of the evening, and it's the Women's Royal Rumble, which I actually like. I would like to see each year they alternate which Royal Rumble gets, the main event spot, because again, I think that's fair, or at least a fair way to do it. But again, so the first, and I think the Women's Royal Rumble here benefited from it being in this spot as opposed to the Men's Royal Rumble that had to contend with, at that point, it being 4 hours long, and the crowd was really getting exhausted at that point. And again, that exhaustion of the crowd is really going to come into play in the last couple of matches. So we'll talk about that there. But Charlotte starting off... Lacey Evans, starting off. Because I was so excited to talk about sort of the Charlotte and Lacey Evans being really good in this match, especially once they faced off. I forgot that it was Charlotte came in a little bit down the line, but started off with Lacey Evans, and I thought she did a great job starting off the match with Natalya. Again, having watched Lacey Evans come through the NXT system and really grow as sort of a somebody who wasn't sort of this independent star and is a homegrown talent of WWE, it's great to see her come so far. I think her character's great, and she has great energy, and it really showed here. One of the big surprises is really no legends coming back or anything like that. If I'm recalling right, the entire women's roster that was used here was a combination of the two SmackDown and Raw, several members of NXT, in particular Candice LeRae, Xia Li, Io Shirai, Kairi Sane. Who am I forgetting? I think that's all from NXT. You also had Rhea Ripley. Casey Catanzaro, the American Ninja Warrior, who had an outstanding moment to where you thought she was eliminated, but she was put on the barrier, and then she walks on her hands to the post. No. She got pushed off, and she fell on her butt. Okay, we have to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it again when we get to the Men's Rumble, but we have to talk about this here. Okay, so I think she landed on her butt, but her feet never touched the floor. As opposed to Naomi, who was actually pushed and caught and put on the barrier and actually had to walk to the barrier before she did, because Naomi also had her Kofi Kingston spot to where she walked across the barrier, leaped to the stairs, and to save herself, of course, only to be then, as she's about to get in, to be pulled off by Mandy Rose, who she had eliminated right before she almost got eliminated. And so, again, love that they were able to tell that story in the match. But we'll get to the storytelling in just a second. But Casey falls on her behind. Scoots back to the wall, feet not touching the ground, and rolls back up, and then walks on her hands to the quarter post, wraps her legs around it, does this bend over, and then climbs up the post to save herself. And let's bring up Kofi as well, because that way we don't have to talk about this during the Men's Rumble. We'll just groan about it. Kofi, I think, had 2 spots. I can't remember. Actually, I can't remember what the first one is. Anyway, had something involved with the post, but then the one big one, the bad one, was he gets thrown into Xavier Woods or thrown out. He literally falls back, and his back is on the thing, but his feet apparently didn't touch the floor. So Xavier stands up, holding up so he doesn't touch the floor, and like crawls back with like in a sunset flip type of formation, and then Kofi flips back up and then sits back on the mat, only to be eliminated very soon after. And it's okay. So the issue here is, I love all these, oh my god, how are they going to survive, Kofi Kingston moments, to where wrestlers you think that are eliminated find a way to not be eliminated. They get thrown to a barrier and they do a great leap and stuff like that. And that works because it's within the realm of reality of what we know the rules. Like, at this point, it's getting ridiculous. Like, we need to change the rule. We need to clarify, if your butt hits the ground, you're out. Okay? Like, if you fall down and you land in your hands, fine. Like, we've seen people walk on their hands, if you can do that. But on the behind, on your back, like, behind, oh god, what is it? There's like a football rule that like one elbow qualifies as two knees, it's like that. Like a behind or a back on the ground qualifies as the same as 2 feet. It has to be, okay? Because like they got real ridiculous here, and it threw me out of reality. Not so much at first the Casey one didn't really take me out of it. Well, or at least when it happened, it didn't take me out of it. But then when Kofi's happened, then combined, like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. We need to tone this down and take this back just a little bit. Because at this point, if that's how you're going to play, like, they're one step away from saying, well, if the referees aren't looking, you can cut back in. You've never been disqualified. And yes, I know, Stone Cold did that, but they didn't have it in the rules that he could do that. Like, they're just... I'm going to say a line that Chris Jericho said about the NWO, and I'm going to say it in here. In the span of a couple years, the Kofi Kingston saves have gone from the Beatles to Spinal Tap. Like, that's how ridiculous they're getting. Like, they were amazing, and now they're just... But back to the Women's Rumble match. Again, you had all these little feuds going on with different competitors, and they integrated those feuds very well into the match. Charlotte looked like a beast. Loved Kairi Sane and Io Shirai. I thought they had great work in the Rumble. Especially once Io Shirai helped eliminate the Riot Squad, who had been pounding on Kairi Sane, and got her eliminated. And then she had a great little bit in the match as well. Xia Li, I have been singing her praises forever. Ever since she debuted in WWE, I said, she's going to be a superstar one day. She's going to be a WWE champion. And the amount of growth that she's had, and just, she looks amazing. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing her grow more. Again, I just want to say that I called it ages ago. She is going to be a big deal in the WWE once she's fully learned what she needs to learn. She's still got a little bit left. She's still a little green. But once she gets by that, again, another great homegrown talent by WWE. So she had a great showing there. And then, of course, the ending, to which, going back to that Rusev Shinsuke Nakamura match, the ending there, I love the fact that the ending of that match actually came into play here. It makes you now feel like you have to watch the pre-show, what happens in some of those matches if they come into play in a match later in the card. So I thought that was smart by WWE in that sense, but also more importantly, it sets up why Becky took her spot. Like, Becky wasn't going to knock somebody out like a certain unstoppable force would do later. We'll get to that. But here you had Lana, who couldn't make it to the ring. She was too injured. And that great moment to where you have Finley there, and Becky just comes out and is like, she can't go. You need a final person. I'm here. And I love Finley. He was like trying to find every reason to say no. And finally, he looked at the crowd. He's like, you want it? All yours. And then her music hit. And the look on everybody's faces when that music hit. And it's like, wait, what? That was a great, priceless moment. And then, of course, the ending to where Charlotte and Becky team together to eliminate Nia Jax. And then as Becky's about to get back in the ring because she had went under the ropes, she gets pushed off and tweaked her knee, which, of course, we also know that, they've been playing with that storyline for the past couple of weeks since this pay-per-view. And, again, that really building the drama of the finish of this match to where, now it's in the bag, Charlotte's going to win, but the craftiness of Becky Lynch coming into play to pick up the victory. I really love that aspect of it. It was a great Rumble all around. I thought all the women were able to shine throughout it. I thought it was a great representation of the depth right now of WWE's women's division in all of its brands, from SmackDown and Raw to NXT UK even. I thought it was all good. And yeah, just a great way to give a moment for Becky to shine. It's why, she can handle tapping out in that main event match that happened before, because she could come back here and just regain all that fire and all that energy and momentum back by winning the Rumble, and winning in a way that made sense. So, great job by the women. Really good Royal Rumble match. Topped last year's Women's Royal Rumble match by far. But now it's time to get into the back half of this show and where this show starts to fall apart. And we'll start by covering the unfortunate bastards that had to follow the Women's Royal Rumble. Let's get into the next match. Fifth match for the WWE Championship. The phenomenal AJ Styles versus the new Daniel Bryan. I really feel bad for AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan here. They were not given a very good spot. The crowd was exhausted from several amazing matches, including an hour-long Royal Rumble match that was great. And, the hard part is, I don't know what you would put here instead. I don't think you should have put the Finn Balor-Brock Lesnar match here. Because then it would have had no energy. The only thing I think of is maybe they should have had a promo segment or something to give the crowd a break so that they could go to bathrooms and stuff like that. This would be a good place to have a quick little concert. It's something that they've done for past WrestleManias that gives the crowd an element to, go to the bathroom and the concessions and to refresh and, calm down and get their energy back. That would be something great to have here, but that's the only thing I can think of. Here at the Royal Rumble, though, they just went straight to Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the title, and the crowd was just exhausted at this point, and it hurt the match because that crowd is the main source of energy for a match. You can have an okay match that feels amazing because the crowd is completely into it, and they just put so much energy into the match that it makes it so much better than it really is. In fact, one could sit there and say that the tag team match earlier in the evening is sort of proof of that, because it's good, but it felt better than it was, and a large part of that was the crowd being into it. But you can have a great match, but if the crowd is not into it, or in particular if they're exhausted and they just can't muster up the cheering, the energy is not there, and it can make it feel so-so. I mean, I wouldn't say bad, because even if the crowd's not into it, a great match is still a great match. But it just doesn't have the same energy, and that energy can hurt the enjoyment of the match. And that really sucks, because I thought Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles put on a great match. It was a great technical wrestling clinic. Not as good, at least I feel, as the match they had at TLC, but still an amazing match that was just, had a great story going into it of AJ Styles wanting to get his title back and trying to basically capture Daniel Bryan, who's really taking on this style of somebody, the technical sort of smart striker who picks his spots, takes advantage of opportunities, which is vastly different from the old Daniel Bryan, who would take risks and just go full force and try to straight up out wrestle you. Now there's a bit more strategicness to his wrestling, which again has a lot of elements of sort of his old original Ring of Honor heel character to it, and sort of the smartness in the way he wrestles. And so AJ just trying to get a hold of that, because the story being told here is AJ straight up could beat Daniel Bryan in just a straight up wrestling match because he's that good. But when Daniel Bryan is sort of playing keep away like that, and the technical aspect of that, it throws a wrench into his plans. And then of course you add in the aspect of the finish here with Rowan, who's now joining Daniel Bryan as sort of his friend of intellect, which is very strange at first, but so far I've actually liked the character so far. But coming into play to where the ref gets knocked out and AJ Styles hits the forearm, but then in comes Rowan as the referee is out and hits sort of a claw choke slam type of maneuver that knocks AJ out and allows Daniel Bryan to pick up the win. I thought it was genius, a great way to end it, because again, it makes Daniel Bryan seem more dangerous now that he has Rowan as his back, willing to help him and get involved in matches, which he doesn't need to win, but again, it's a heel maneuver, and so it's a great heel tactic that I like that they're using. And again, like I said, I thought it was a great match, and I liked the ending because I thought it worked well. The unfortunate thing is, again, it followed that Rumble match, and the crowd was exhausted and had no energy. And because of that, you had this great match that felt just average. And it was hard to get into the match because the energy wasn't there. And that's what sucks about it, because on a technical level, it's a great match, but the crowd wasn't into it, and therefore the energy wasn't into it. And it makes the match feel a lot longer than it was, and it made the match feel like a slog to get through. So, again, great match, just that crowd hurt it bad. But the crowd thankfully got into it somewhat for the next match for the WWE Universal Championship. So let's get to the next match. Sixth match for the WWE Universal Championship. Finn Balor versus the Beast, Brock Lesnar. With the Universal Championship match, there was obviously three objectives. One was to make Finn Balor look super strong without taking the title off Brock Lesnar. But two, to make Brock Lesnar look vulnerable, as if someone like even Finn Balor could beat him, possibly, because he's not taking being Universal Champion seriously and overlooking people. And inserting that fatal, which has been there, but like reassessing that fatal flaw of Brock Lesnar for the WrestleMania match down the line. And 3, to get the audience back into it. Because they, in particular for the match itself, they needed the energy. To which I say, mission accomplished. I love so much stuff about this match. And it's all in how to decide to tell their story of Finn Balor being this David figure. And again, you think about it, they really played David versus Goliath. And this played like a David versus Goliath match as far as the actual biblical story. Because in that story, David pretty much dominated Goliath too. I mean, certainly all he did was throw a rock at him and hit him with a marksman shot like in the head that killed him immediately. Because apparently he had the throwing speed of a bullet. But how do you fathom that one? That's besides the point. We're not getting into biblical studies here. The point I'm making is that sort of fits the same theme of the story of David actually dominating Goliath. And in this case, Goliath needing absolute luck to come out the victor. More importantly, by having... Because, again, this match, they had Finn Balor pretty much dominate Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar had a suplex or two throughout the match, but pretty much it was all Finn Balor. They made Finn Balor look so strong here. And one of the ways that they did this amazingly is there was a moment on the outside where Brock Lesnar is setting up, taking the table apart, and Balor takes advantage and obviously using knowledge of, I'm not even going to attempt to say the word that starts with a D, that is what Brock Lesnar got like while in the UFC, that sort of stomach thing that he got. But using knowledge of that to like throw Lesnar into the corner of the announce table, and how, again, that really incapacitated. Remember, these words just sneak up on me, folks, and I just can't say them. It's the Southerner in me, because I did live in Florida. But I'm not going to attempt to say the word, but basically take Lesnar out of his game and really show Lesnar hurt, which I can't believe I'm going to give Brock Lesnar praise. It's making me itch all over. But you gotta praise Lesnar here, because he did a damn good job selling. God, it hurts. Oh, now I'm getting itchy. I'm like, oh. That doesn't make me feel good. But you have to give the bastard his due. He sold like crazy for Finn Balor. And again, that whole get the crowd back into the pay-per-view, pump up the energy, it certainly did, because people started like, oh my god, he may actually take the title off. Oh my god, what happened? Could it happen? And again, they goddamn sucked you in. I know you hate it, but you gotta give it up for the bastards, because they did it. And more importantly, I like the finish here, because if the finish had been Brock Lesnar gains control and then completely dominates Finn Balor and easily dispatches him, it would have sucked and nobody would have liked it. Here, they played it like a real life fight. Again, that whole blurring the lines between sports entertainment / professional wrestling and actual sort of shoot fighting, to where, again, Finn Balor hits the coup de grace, is in the pin, and Lesnar kicks out, but kicks out into a way to where he then captures Finn Balor's arm, who was just laying there like this, that Finn Balor didn't even think about, and captures him in the Kimura, which gets the submission. And it was like a snap second. And so it shows you two things. It shows you how dangerous Brock Lesnar can be in a snap second, but it also gives it a sort of real fight type of feeling to it, because, you know, a real fight can end just like that at any moment, and sort of it adds to that drama. At the same time, it doesn't make Finn Balor look weak because, and Finn Balor pretty much dominated the entire match. He makes one mistake, and in a real fight, there are plenty of fights where you can see fighters have dominated the entire match, but they make one mistake, and that costs them the match. So there's a sense of reality in the story here that they're telling that really makes the match work on every level, and it helps them accomplish all of their goals. The goal of making Finn Balor look super strong without putting the title on him, making Brock Lesnar look like he has a lot of I had a word and I didn't want to use it, but like he has vulnerabilities that he's not taking care of, and those are obviously vulnerabilities that the challenger for his title at WrestleMania will take advantage of and will be part of helping them win that match, hopefully, if WWE is smart. And it got the crowd back into the pay-per-view. So by that means, mission accomplished on all levels. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a good match. Could it be greater if they had Finn Balor win? But again, this I thought was the right story to tell. And I don't think you could deny that Finn Balor came out of this match looking like $1 million. And if Finn Balor had to lose, I'd rather he lose like this and come out looking super strong and looking amazing and like an absolute superstar than coming out looking like he was just dominated and like he's nothing. WWE did a great job protecting Finn Balor in that sense here, making him look strong. So really good match, mission accomplished on all fronts. But that leaves us one last match, and boy, let's get in the doozy. That is the Men's Royal Rumble match. Seventh match, the 2019 Men's Royal Rumble! So, the last match of the evening is the Royal Rumble match, and as much as the last match, and I praised it for getting the crowd into it, by the halfway point of the match, the exhaustion of 4.5 hours finally kicked in, and the crowd really started to wane on this match. I thought it started off okay. I love the starting off with the segment of Elias and Jeff Jarrett being sort of really the only, not only surprise, there'd be a second surprise entrant. But as far as legends coming out, Jeff Jarrett was really the only surprise entrant. And we'll get into the lack of legends in just a second. But I thought that was a smart way to start it. I enjoyed the comedy segment there. And then from there, it was just superstar after superstar. And in one hand, it shows you really how many superstars WWE has, because a large majority of them all felt like contenders, and it gave it a real sense of, oh my God, who's really gonna win this match? I mean, we all had our ideas of who's gonna win the match, but major stars weren't eliminated immediately. They were given opportunities to shine and look like stars, and for the most part lasted pretty decent times. Like, they weren't like minute-long entries. They were given like Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe were given like 10 minutes. Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin, just to name a few, were all given 10 minutes. Mustafa Ali, I thought, looked amazing throughout this match. Aldrete Cien Almas, who I didn't realize that Seth Rollins had been eliminated. So I thought the final two was Aldrete Cien Almas and Braun Strowman. So I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna have Aldrete Cien Almas win the Royal Rumble, and I was like so excited for it. And then I saw that Rollins is still in. Okay, let's hope he wins the Rumble, because I don't think anybody was looking forward to Braun Strowman winning the Rumble. Who, by the way, props to Braun Strowman for playing the Big Show role in the match this year, being that dominant force that gets eliminated last. to really make the winner over. But, yeah, so for the most part, good. There's just... Mustafa Ali looked amazing. I love the fact that they allowed him to eliminate both Shinsuke and Samoa Joe. Again, they have such... You can really see that they were really high on Mustafa Ali, and it's great to see. He's such a great story, and the fact that he wasn't even supposed to be in the original Cruiserweight Classic, and he was a backup, and he came in, and every opportunity they've given him, he has just taken by the horns and made it his own and been amazing to the point to where they brought him from 205 Live to the main roster, and they're seriously really pushing him. And it's like, I think that's great. And he's such a great story. And so that's a real good thing to see in the match. But there are some things holding back the match. By the way, the other surprise entrant was Nia Jax, who, R-Truth comes out, he gets attacked from the side by Nia Jax, takes his spot, becoming the first person to ever be in the women's and men's Royal Rumble, and eliminating people in both Rumbles as well. She eliminated Mustafa Ali, and to be fair, Nia Jax's heel work was great. She stole a spot in a heelish way that got the crowd to boo her. She eliminated a fan favorite in Mustafa Ali, who hesitated because he didn't want to hurt a woman. That was great heel work. And then there was the point where, I'm going to team with Rey Mysterio. And then she starts beating on Rey Mysterio. It's like, just great heel work. And I have to admit, I love her elimination. Again, you're not cheering a woman being hit here by a man. You're cheering a heel getting their comeuppance. And Nia Jax stole her way into here. And so, when she gets hit out of nowhere by the RKO, and then gets the 619, and then gets eliminated, it was deserved. And it's... that was, I thought, a great moment. It was a very funny moment, which, speaking of funny moments, is really the big thing as far as what the match did that hurt it. As much as the crowd was waning, especially towards the end of the match, and the energy wasn't there, which certainly is an issue, as I made mention before. That whole needing good energy to make a match feel great and epic sometimes. And like I said, I've already talked ad nauseum of, Kofi Kingston's spot here with Xavier Woods and the ridiculousness now of some of these saving people from being eliminated spots. The Kofi Kingston spots, as I call it. But really, I just felt like the comedy really wasn't here in the match. I mean, you had the opening segment with Jeff Jarrett and Elias. There was a spot with Curtis Hawking and Titus O'Neil that I really liked. That was funny, to where Curtis gets in and he's doing well, but he gets thrown under the rope. And God, that reminds me, I forgot. Zelina Vega in the Women's Rumble. Oh my God, how could I forget this? Okay, so they had two hiding under the ring spots here. So the one, obviously the Women's Rumble, I liked more. But I also like the men's one. But let me explain them. So the one in the Women's Rumble is Zelina Vega gets thrown under the rope, and she decides to hide under the ring. And she's hiding there a pretty good while. I can't remember who it is who got eliminated. I want to say it's Kathy Catanzaro, and she gets eliminated, and Zelina Vega it comes out and is laughing like this, and all of a sudden further down the ring anchor pops up and out pops Hornswoggle. It was amazing and I loved it. And Hornswoggle then chases Zelina Vega back into the ring where she gets eliminated, and he then chases her back out, back down the ramp, right? Which, by the way, Zelina Vega coming out dressed as Vega from Street Fighter. My favorite wrestling costume of the night, by far. But that was a great, funny spot. Curtis Hawkins, on the other hand, And he gets eliminated. He goes under the ring. Very soon after that, Titus O'Neil comes out. And again, everybody is looking forward to this to see what Titus World Slide is going to do. And I thought they played it perfectly. It was a great little funny moment. And then, of course, he gets down there, and all of a sudden, Curtis Hawkins pops out and goes, "Hello." Which leads Titus to go chase him under the ring. Curtis Hawkins pops out, goes in the ring. Titus goes in the ring. Curtis ducks a clothesline, and then clotheslines Titus O'Neil out, eliminating him. It was a great little moment before then, of course, Curtis got eliminated. But that was really the only funny moment outside of the opening one with Jarrett and Elias that I felt really worked in the match. Like I said, the funny moments that were the Kofi Kingston moments fell flat and didn't work and took me out of reality. And then the other part of funny moments is the legends who return. And it brings an epicness to the match to see these legends return, whoever they are, participate in the match, even if they only last a minute. Again, it's this fun. It brings energy to the match, it brings fun and comedy to the match, and it gets people excited. And they didn't have any of that. I mean, they had NXT superstars like Johnny Gargano, Elias Black, and Pete Dunne be in there. And don't get me wrong, I love that they were in there. I wouldn't take them out for anything. And they were amazing. But it could have used one or two more legends to maybe bring some comedy or really hype up the crowd and keep the crowd into the match. Because of that lack of comedy, like I said, you had that aspect to where the energy really wasn't there for the end of the match. And again, I think that overall hurt the match in the long run. And again, we actually haven't talked much about the winner, Seth Rollins. I mean, I thought he did good. They gave him sort of the Roman Reigns route to where I think he had been in for a while. And then Bobby Lashley comes in. He quickly eliminates Bobby Lashley. Lashley, in his rage, pulls him under the rope, puts him through a table, which takes him out all the way until the end, where he rolls himself back in, and it's just him and Strowman. And then they go out and he eliminates him with a curb stomp on the apron, as did the whole front face lock, dragged Strowman out, kicked him down. Strowman was on the apron, curb stomp on the apron for the win. I like that ending. They really built the drama to it. And, I mean, Seth Rollins overall had a really good Rumble. Not only was he the winner, but he was the overall Iron Man, spending the longest in the Rumble. And so, again, it was a great job. But it just, again, it feels a little overshadowed by, because that energy wasn't there, that you really can seem to forget what Seth Rollins did in the match. And so I think that hurt the match in the long run. But overall, I thought it was a good Rumble match. I mean, if I had to rate it among other Rumbles, it'd probably be in the middle of the road. Last year's I thought was way much better, but still, this was a very solid Rumble match and had its entertaining spots. But again, the lack of legends and lack of good, solid comedy sprinkled throughout, I think hurt the match and caused it to lose energy to where the crowd was obviously exhausted by the end of the night. So, with that, we've covered all the matches. Time to go into final thoughts. So with final thoughts, of course, let's start off as we always do, top 3 moments of the night. Number 3, that shooting star press by Shane McMahon. Is an amazing thing to see, especially when you see it coming from a 50-year-old individual or someone over the age of 50. Major props to Shane McMahon for pulling off that maneuver. Number 2 is the moment I almost forgot to talk about and brought it up. In fact, almost forgot to talk about it so much that I brought it up in the men's rumble when it happened in the women's rumble. But the Zelina Vega hiding under the ring spot where Hornswoggle returned, and I know somewhere my good friend the Shades is like screaming at his computer screen saying, "You bastard! I don't care. I like Hornswoggle," and I love his comedy. I think it's great, and him and Zelina Vega had a great little comedy spot that just, oh, I loved it. I love it, and I can't believe I forgot about it. I was so busy riffing on the whole Kofi Kingston spots getting redonkulous that I think I forgot about it. That's the only thing I claim in defense, because I feel horrible for forgetting about it. But certainly that was my second favorite moment of the night. But my first favorite moment also was in the Women's Royal Rumble, and that was Becky Lynch is coming out and the man demanding that the man who loves to fight, Fit Finlay, put him in the match. Him acquiescing and her winning the match. I thought that was a great moment. Every aspect of that. Her coming down, her arguing with Fit Finlay, that motion by Fit Finlay, like, go ahead. And when her music hit, how the entire ring stopped what it was doing and like, wait a minute, what's going on? And the shocked look on their faces. And then of course you add lastly her victory and her, even though she got her leg hurt, her able to overcome Charlotte and eliminate Charlotte and win the match. All of that, just a great series of moments that just, that was my favorite part of the Rumble. And that brings us to favorite matches, or I should say top 3 matches of the night. At number 3, Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar. Yes, I cannot believe I'm putting a Brock Lesnar match in my top 3 of the night. I feel dirty. But again, if the goal of this match was to make Finn Balor look super strong without having him win it, which felt like that's what the goal of the match was, then mission accomplished. And again, not only was mission accomplished, but they made it entertaining. And as much as I hate to say that a Lesnar match was entertaining, it was entertaining. God damn it. Number 2, Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey. The ladies killed it here. They were amazing. And just, they had great chemistry. And I would love to see Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks go at it again. But number 1 has to be the match that I'm putting on such a pedestal that I'm putting it almost in the same category as what I was putting Gargano and Ricochet in. But an absolutely amazing 5-star match. Becky Lynch versus Asuka. The chain submission wrestling, the back and forth nature, the real fight feel, really having a majority of the match happen on the mat. Just, it's everything I want and love in professional wrestling. And just this real professional wrestling fight that oh God. Just, they absolutely killed it and smashed it. And honestly, I feel, again, match of the year candidate as of right now. Absolutely amazing. Major props for Asuka and Becky Lynch of basically stealing the show, because that's what they did. And that's amazing because honestly, this was a really good show. Looking at the matches on paper, taking out crowd interaction and everything like that, and just on their professional wrestling aspects, there is not a bad match on this card. I mean, the worst match is probably maybe a tie between the Men's Royal Rumble and the WWE Championship match, but that's mostly due to energy. They were really good wrestling matches. And again, people look major strong. And I've gone as nauseum to the fight, the first hour and a half, 2 hours of this show, what was pretty much the women's portion, how they killed it. So, really filled with great matches. It's just that back end of the pay-per-view, starting with the WWE Championship. Obviously, this pay-per-view went too long. 5 hours is a long time to ask wrestling fans to be invested without some type of break or something to give them some rest and allow them to get the energy back, an intermission of sorts. I mean, just go ask New Japan about this if you want. In particular, this past year's Wrestle Kingdom, they could probably speak to the same thing happening. And unfortunately, that hurt the back end of this pay-per-view. As such, the WWE Championship, while being a fantastic match, had no energy that dragged it down. And while Balor and Lesnar were able to get the energy back up going into the Men's Royal Rumble, the lack of good, solid comedy and lack of legends and surprise and shocks and all the things you need to really keep the energy of a Royal Rumble match going without it feeling like a slog weren't there. And by the end of that match, that Royal Rumble match felt like a slog, and you were ready for it to be over. And it's unfortunate because, like I said, this was a really good pay-per-view. So, overall, final thought on the Royal Rumble, really good pay-per-view. I mean, I still think NXT Phoenix did better, but this wasn't a situation of like they were so far better. The Royal Rumble stepped up to the plate and knocked it out of the park on a wrestling level. But 5 hours is too long, and that crowd by the end was not there, and that hurt several matches on the back end. So overall, I give WWE's Royal Rumble 2019 a 4 out of 5. I'd say go watch it. You probably already have, but if you haven't, just watch it in parts. Watch the first 2 hours one day, and then watch the other 2 hours another day. And you'll enjoy it much more. So, 4 out of 5 stars. That's it for my review of Royal Rumble 2019. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember to click the like and subscribe button at the top of our page. And of course, please feel free to send comments on this video and others. We always look forward to listening to you, the fans. On the next episode, we're heading back to New Japan Pro Wrestling as we're going to look at several big matches from its New Beginnings tour that took place in Sapporo and in Osaka. And so, until then, my wrestling fans, I want you to remember that I am the most glorious Jew that ever lived. Your wrestling rabbi and undisputed Jewish wrestling champion. So just sit back and bask in my glory, bros.